Hello, and welcome to Did You Know Gaming Extra. To the surprise of pretty much nobody, the HBO series Game of Thrones received several video game adaptations after its debut. These titles range anywhere from home console games to Facebook games, and have been played by an unsurprisingly large number of people. One example of this can be seen with the Facebook game Game of Thrones Ascent. The game's servers crashed entirely when it first launched, due to the hundreds of thousands of people trying to log in. One person who hasn't played a single one of these games, however, is the author of the original Song of Ice and Fire books, and co-executive producer of the show, George R.R. Martin. Martin seems to have no distaste for the Game of Thrones games, or even gaming in general. In fact, he quit video games in the early 80s due to some degree of addiction. Martin told the LA Times,
"It wasn't that I didn't like them, it was that I liked them too much, and I think I probably lost, a novel or two there."
Does that mean he had like an accumulative time playing games of like 12 years? Yeah. Another interesting connection between gaming and Game of Thrones is that the show's co-creator, Daniel Brett Weiss, wrote for the cancelled Halo movie in 2006. And speaking of Halo, and games based on or inspired by books, the concept of the ring-shaped megastructures in the Halo franchise was inspired by the Ringworld series of books by Larry Niven. The Halo structures are remarkably similar to the megastructure in Larry Niven's Ringworld series, as anyone who has read the books will tell you. However, the Ringworld is enclosed around a large star, whereas the Halos orbit smaller bodies and are themselves much smaller. What's interesting about this is that publishers of the Halo novels, Del Rey Books, actually contacted Niven about writing a Halo novel. Niven turned down Del Rey's offer, as he only writes for a series if he's already familiar with the source material. Microsoft actually sent Niven an Xbox with a copy of Halo to persuade him, but to no avail. Sticking with the theme of books, let's talk about the game I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which is based on the short story of the same name. In the final part of the game, while playing as Ellen, she'll say,
"I'm an engineer, not a brain surgeon."
This is thought to be a reference to Dr. McCoy from the original series of Star Trek, as he'd often say, "I'm a doctor, not a," then state some random occupation. One of the game's designers was Harlan Ellison, who also voiced the supercomputer AM, and wrote the book the game is based on. Ellison would also sell scripts to TV shows, and one of these shows happened to be the original Star Trek. For today's random piece of trivia, we'll be taking a look at a company that we've already talked about on the channel, Phoenix Games. Last time we talked about Phoenix Games, we demonstrated that they had stolen artwork from Kingdom Hearts, and used it for the cover of their Peter Pan game. It turns out this wasn't the only time that they had plagiarized artwork. The pre-release box art for their arcade shooter, Deadeye Jim, reused art from the cover of Outlaw on the Commodore 64. Phoenix Games managed to change the art before Deadeye Jim was published, probably to avoid being sued into oblivion. That's all for today, but if you enjoyed this video, we've got 2 more on screen for you to take a look at. And if you haven't yet, maybe consider subscribing to see multiple videos which we'll be uploading each week. Thank you very much. Damn it, Jim. I'm a doctor, not a coat rack.
Another profession.